The new year has just begun, so we're taking a look back at 2020 and all the anime it brought with it. Today we'll be talking about the best,
what we wish could have been the best,
some of our honorable mentions,
and much, much more.
But if you don't know already, you're listening to the Son of a Geek podcast.
Son of a Geek!
Hey, I'm Spencer.
And
Oh, your mic cut out for me. I don't know when you finished that.
Zeo.
Oh, you were still going.
Yep.
All right, so today is an exciting day. It is now the year 2021, and there's a whole new year of anime to come out for us to watch.
So much more anime for us to watch, but even more to not watch after looking at how much anime came out in 2020.
Yeah, I still got a lot of shows that I want to catch up on, which we're going to talk about those as well. But I feel like we should jump into some honorable mentions first. How does that sound?
Oh, we're just diving right on into it. All right, yeah, sure.
So how many honorable mentions do you have?
I have 4, Spen.
Oh, perfect. I've got 4 of them as well.
Oh, perfect.
Why don't we just go, I'll start, and then you can continue after that. All right, well, the first one I'm going to bring onto the honorable mentions list is The Eighth Son, Are You Kidding Me?
All right, what's that about?
So Shinjo, a 25-year-old man working at a firm company, when thinking of tomorrow's busy working day, goes to sleep. However, when he woke up, he found himself in a room unknown to him and realized that he is inside a 6-year-old body. Taking over his body and mind, he soon learns from the memories of the boy that the boy was born as the youngest child of a poor noble family living in a back country. Having no administrative skill, he can't do anything to manage the vast land his family has. Fortunately, he is blessed with a very rare talent, the talent of magic. Unfortunately, while his talent could bring prosperity to his family, in this situation it only brought disaster. This is the story of the boy, Wendelin von Beno Baumeister, opening his own path in a harsh world.
Damn.
So, I give this one an honorable mention because it's not good enough to be a best of, but I feel like it has some aspects in it that were really interesting and really well done.
Okay.
Where it was a slightly different take on the isekai genre, where now he's the 8th son, so the youngest son of this family, and because he's now got magic, it makes it so that he could potentially he has rights now to be the new lord of the land that his family owns.
Okay.
And so this creates a bunch of drama between him and the eldest in his family.
Yeah.
It kind of touches on a little bit of that, and then it goes through him and progressing through the world. And I feel like it was a pretty good one. It wasn't quite good enough to make it up to best of, just because of some of the other shows that we have out there. But I felt it deserved an honorable mention.
Okay, nice. Well, my first honorable mention I think is gonna be Fire Force. So technically, Fire Force came out last season, but season 2 came out this year or in 2020. And I only watched dub because I'm a loser, and I've really been enjoying it so far. I haven't finished it. The reason it's on the honorable mention is because I just haven't finished it yet. But once I finish it, maybe it would be part of the best. Who knows? All I do know is I remember watching it spend the entire time. I'm like, man, I kind of want to do an abridged version of this. But then I saw somebody else did it.
Oh. Well, there's a lot of over-the-top animation with it, and the characters are all very lively and unique. So it could make for some very fun ways to do it, especially with how they portray the characters.
Yeah.
I think it'd be very easy to kind of like push the idea of them even further.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But Fire Force seems really exciting. I like the idea. I'm not typically into shonen and stuff. However, I really do like the concept of this. You know, just a whole group of people.
Well, do you want to give us a synopsis of it before you get too far into it?
No way! I don't want to do that. Really, I'm just stalling until I find the synopsis. Okay, here it is. So, Tokyo is burning, and citizens are mysteriously suffering from spontaneous human combustion throughout the city. Responsible for snuffing out this inferno is the Fire Force, and Shinra is ready to join their fight. Now, as part of Company 8, he'll use his devil's footprint to keep the city from turning to ash. But his past and burning secret behind the scenes could set everything ablaze. Pun intended.
Ooh.
But no, it's pretty awesome so far. I'm not too far into it, about 4 or 5 episodes, but I'm really enjoying it. I really like just the concept, the scenes, the whole idea of it is really good. So it's pulled me in and it's kept me in so far.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good show too. I've been watching the sub, so I'm at the end of it right now for everything that's currently released.
La-di-da.
So, because I'm better than Zeo, because I watch
you're
subs.
better than me.
Oh, man, there's a couple shows, because I started watching stuff on Funimation.
Yeah.
Since we talked about the Funimation versus Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
And when you go to pick a show, if there's the English out for it, or it's finished, it automatically gives you the English first.
Yes.
I'm not used to that. So I watched a couple shows and I'm like, oh, is it only in English? So I watched it in English.
It's not only in English. It's always dubbed. It's always subbed first, Ben.
I know, but I'm just so used to Crunchyroll where it was always sub, and if there's an English thing, I'd have to go and pick something else after. So I was like, well, this is weird, but it was also cool. Yeah. So I started watching a couple of them dubbed, and
you can change your settings to start it off that way.
Oh, well, I'm fine with watching the dub. It was actually nice to
not have to read it.
It's like it's a different kind of experience being able to watch it in dub.
Yeah, it is. I mean, some dubs don't land as well. Like, I recognize that sub is superior in terms like the animation is designed to be delivered in a certain context that the Japanese have that Americans don't carry over, and it just doesn't translate very well. But sometimes it lands just fine, and sometimes I don't care. So I just like to not read it because ultimately it's a boring animation. So I'd like to just at least listen and stare at a picture for a second.
That's completely fair. So the next one I've got on my list here is Inspector. So the synopsis for this.
I feel like it sounds familiar.
It's only on Crunchyroll, so that's probably why you haven't seen it.
But it sounds familiar. I think it's on my watch list on Crunchyroll.
Oh, interesting. All right, well, so the synopsis here for Inspector is both touched by spirits called yokai. Kodako and Kuro have gained unique superhuman powers. But to gain her powers, Kodako has given up an eye and a leg, and Kuro's personal life is in shambles. So when Kodako suggests they team up to deal with renegades from the spirit world, Kuro doesn't have many other choices, but Kodako might just have a few ulterior motives. That's not a very good synopsis.
No.
Well, so Inspector, it's a show of these two characters that are going through and teaming up together to deal with yokai, and one of them is kind of very like kind of not obsessed with himself, but he's more kind of like that cool tough guy who's like, all right, whatever, this is my life, I'm gonna just do it my way. And then there's the other girl she's constantly tied in and affected by these yokai in different ways, and it's them working together and how their relationship develops, not a romantic type thing, but just kind of like working together, dealing with yokai hidden from the real world. And I think it's really interesting. I wanted this to be an honorable mention because how they present the idea behind the yokai and their spiritual powers, as well as how their personalities are with interacting with each other and everything. It was very fresh for me. It was fun to listen to, but there were just so many other shows that were better that I couldn't put this as a best of.
Okay. All right. So my next honorable mention is on this list mostly because it's not finished. It started late 2020 and it's carrying over to 2021. So I personally couldn't put it on the best just because it's not finished. It's hard for me to say. This could be hot trash by the end of this season. But right now it's on the honorable mentions of Equitable Drive. And I remember earlier this week you sent me a message saying, Zeo, you need to check out Equitable Drive. I'm like, Sped, I've already been watching it. It's good.
And well, that's the one I started watching in English.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I really, really like the show. It's very stylish, and the music's pretty fun. The characters are kind of wacky. It has this like that one anime about the bear. It's super popular. It's like these kids are in school and they get put in like a classroom court setting.
Assassination Classroom?
No. It's like a courtroom style. So someone gets murdered and then they have to figure out who the murderer is by investigation. It's run by a bear.
I haven't seen that.
A white and a black face. It's a very popular anime. I've seen so much about it. I watched it too, so I don't even remember. Anyways, Equitable Drive is fantastic. It is it's based in the future. So the synopsis is garbage. This is a great civil war ravaged Japan, leaving a country fragmented in two regions, the Kansai and the Kanto. In Kansai, a group of 6 Akutama carry out missions given to them by a mysterious black cat while evading the police. But a dangerous journey is about to unfold when a civilian girl becomes twisted in the Akutama way of life and witnesses their criminal drives. So that literally gives no explanation of the anime whatsoever.
Well, I feel like that's a really good synopsis to let you know, or to give you an idea of what the show is going to be about.
I don't think so. I feel like this is a lot of pretext that gives no context. So like this is a history of the anime, not the anime itself.
I've only seen like 2 episodes so far, 3 episodes now.
Exactly, and of those 3 episodes,
I feel like if they said anything else or anything more than that, it would kind of give away some of like the whoa moments of watching the show.
I don't think so. I mean, like I would label this as follow this girl who is an innocent and she just wants to be accepted in life as she gets dragged in with 5 other criminals as they do missions for a silly cat, right?
I mean, yeah, it's not bad. if you told me the synopsis for that, like that, I probably would have bumped it lower on my to watch list.
But this synopsis doesn't make me want to watch it at all.
No, that's fair.
Anyways, this is why trailers are important, kids. Anime's freaking fantastic. You clearly like it. I like it. I love the style of it. It kind of has like this, I don't know, this crazy, wacky Persona style where it's about vivid colors and style points, essentially. Like everyone looks super cool. The animation's gorgeous. All the characters are crazy in their own way.
Well, it's a really interesting style because the whole world is set in the future.
Yeah.
And so it's got a very neon-esque kind of style to it to make it kind of feel a bit more futuristic. So then the characters are kind of following the suit of the world with like the colors and the styles, which really helps give them that kind of like unique appearance.
Yeah, what I love,
which I think is really neat.
What I really like about it is the fact that these criminals they're like wanted criminals, and your level of how dangerous you are is by how many years you're supposed to be scheduled to be in prison. And so like they each have like 300 years and 600 years and 1,000 years. And it's just, I love the cast of everybody, and I really enjoyed it so far, so I have high hopes for it, and I think it's going to be great. But that one's one of my honorable. Danganronpa! That's the anime I was thinking about. Where
I haven't seen that.
Where it's very like stylish and characteristic.
That's a hard show to get into.
It is a hard show to get into. I like practically almost gave up on it because the first season's fine to follow, but then it gets into like season 2, and there's 2 season 2s, right? But they give you different perspectives, and you're supposed to like watch them interchangeably for it to make a complete narrative sense. I don't know. We're not talking about it.
Because
it's just
based
obnoxious.
off of a game.
It is based off a game, yes.
So isn't there I don't know. It's too much for me. I also dated a girl that in like I think I was at the just out of high school, and she was huge into it and only ever talked about it. And so then I was just like, I don't care about this show anymore. Because when someone just only talks about one specific thing and they're just like, oh, this is amazing, blah, blah, blah. You just get to the point where you're just like, whatever. I don't want this anymore. That's exactly what
happened with Jujutsu Kaisen. I just wanted to hate it when I watched the entire thing.
Oh, man.
All right, what's your next honorable mention?
So the last honorable I got 2 more honorable mentions. Yeah, we've only gone through 4 of them so far.
Oh my god, it's going so slow.
It's fine. So I've got I'm Standing on a Million Lives.
Ooh, what's that about?
So, aloof and logical middle school year Yusuke Yotsuya is transported to a game-like alternate world. He becomes a 3rd player and takes on a dangerous quest with his classmates Lu Shindo and Kusu Hakozaki, who were transported there earlier. The cold Yusuke eschews emotionalism and examines all elements with detachment, sometimes even toying with the lives of his companions. Can he protect his party from attacking monsters, difficult incidents, and powerful scheming enemies, and win the game?
I don't know, can he?
So this is a show that it's very... This one I wanted to bring into an honorable mention as well, because Isuke has been a huge huge thing. And this last year, they did a really good job of introducing a few different ones that took things in a different approach. Whereas with this one, there is this alien-like entity that's apparently from the future that contacts them or brings them into this game and says, here's your mission objective. You need to go and complete this. You have X amount of in-game time or X amount of time to get to this objective. If you don't get to it in time, you die. And so then they have to go through and play through it. The world knows they're heroes. So it's basically like they are in a video game, but it's just kind of like real life type thing.
Yeah.
As they go through, if they die, there's an actual respawn timer before they can come back. So they're just like dead little like husks floating around waiting to come back to life. If they attack an actual player in the game, then they lose experience. If they attack a human in the game, they lose experience. So there's a lot of different mechanics that play in interesting ways. And it's how they go through completing these different tasks while trying to make it to the end and dealing with these different things like the death and not being able to attack certain kinds of things and how the skills and abilities work. But what sets this apart is the main character. Everybody else has these cool classes, but the main character in this show, his first class that he gets, I believe, is Farmer. So there's like these it's when you level up or get to a certain point or you get a class, there's this big spinning wheel that this alien-like entity spins for you. And then it randomly picks a class for you. But for him, it picks there's this very slim chance of these terrible classes, but he keeps getting these terrible classes.
I think I've seen the first episode of this where he ends up teaming up with like 2 chicks, right? And then they end up dying, and he has to survive for a certain time frame before they respawn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That seemed interesting. It wasn't that great at the end, or?
It just wasn't good enough to be a best of.
Okay.
It was something that was just on its way, but there were a few elements of it that just kind of were a bit lacking. Like sometimes the story dragged on a little bit, and other times, some of the characters were kind of weird. But the only other thing that I'd like to add to it that's kind of neat is. The main character, he shows up as the third player. So there's 2 other people that have already been completing quests. And every time it started out with one character and every time a quest is completed, they get to bring another player into the game with them, but they can't tell the other player that they're going to be brought into the game with them. They just have to find a way to get that person alone with the others. So that the game master or whatever can bring them all into the game together. So it's kind of neat how everything ties in with it.
Yeah, it seemed really interesting. I only watched, like I said, I think it was just the first episode. I might have watched the second episode. I don't remember. But yeah, it seemed like a really interesting concept that I was... it's on my watch list to continue to finish.
At the end of the day, the story's okay. But it's all of the elements around the story in the game that make it really interesting, and that's why I felt it.
I find that happens a lot with anime, unfortunately. I think a lot of anime, unfortunately, fall into that just struggle. They have like these really interesting concepts, and they start strong, but I think they just make awkward narrative choices or make some awkward characters that don't quite flow into that style as well, you know? And they don't really push it like to the extreme in hopes you think it would go.
Well, but a lot of animes, I think it's like that because a lot of animes are based off of a manga or a light novel that's written by a single person. So
I understand that.
But... And a lot of these, like a lot of mangas are written chapter by chapter. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of manga or people that draw mangas where they have a basic idea for the story, and then they just write and see where it goes.
Yeah.
Like a great example for this is, I believe Naruto didn't have very much planning. There was an idea of how it was going to end and how it was going to start, and he just wrote. And then he'd write his chapter, and then the next chapter he'd write the next one, and there wasn't an in-depth like plan or schedule or line of events. He just kind of wrote things as he went.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of other mangas that get like that too.
Right. I'm not saying it's anime exclusively fall. I'm just saying the style of anime/manga tends to fall into that trap, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. All right. Well, my next one, Spen, was something I was very, very excited about. I tend to like mysteries and things like that. And this one's called Case File Number 221. Basically, if Sherlock Holmes was Japanese and he's a part of this detective group house. And you don't really follow him, you follow this character Watson, which is his sidekick. And so Watson wants to hire Sherlock for a certain thing, but they gotta solve a bunch of things along the way. It's a very interesting concept. I like mystery shows. It's pretty fun. The characters are interesting. It isn't just those two characters. Like I said, there's a whole house full of these other detectives, and they're constantly competing to try to solve each mission because whoever gets to solve it gets the most money. And
that's really cool. I haven't heard of this one till now.
Yeah, it's on Funimation. It's a very interesting concept. It's been a slow watch for me, but I have enjoyed all the episodes as I go through it. I don't think it's necessarily one of the best animes of 2020, but I do think it's enjoyable enough to really, like, if you like mystery shows, absolutely give this a shot.
That's cool. Yeah, I just added that to my watch list.
Nice.
All right, well, the last one I've got for honorable mentions is, what do you know? It's another Isekai. This one is My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom. So wealthy heiress Katerina Claus is hit in the head with a rock and recovers the memories of her past life. It turns out the world she lives in is the world of the game Fortune Lover, an otome game she was obsessed with in her past life. But she's been cast as the villain character who tries to foil the protagonist's romances. The best ending the game has for Katerina is exile, and the worst, death. She'll have to find a way to avoid triggering the flags of doom and make her own happy future. The misunderstanding-based screwball love comedy now begins.
I remember we talked about this before. It looked interesting, but I don't think there's a dubbed version for it, so I never gave it a chance.
I really like it because she's got this interesting approach to it's an interesting approach where she now knows of these events that are going to happen in the future, or ideas of how the events are supposed to play out, and she needs to watch out for these and try to figure out how to change them. Mm-hmm. And as things progress along, things that she affects or changes kind of react in different ways. And it changes a lot of events around for her, and for how she expects them to play out from the video game compared to here, and it's really fun and interesting watching it go around.
Yeah, it looked really good.
Again, it wasn't good enough to be a best of.
Oh, that's a shame. That means.
But it had a bunch of really interesting parts to it where it was just like I think it's still a must. If you're someone out there who loves anime and you pride yourself in watching tons of different animes, I think this is a must-watch just because of more than all of the other one. Over all of the other honorable mentions, this is the one that's the must-watch.
Okay. All right. Well, my final honorable mention is an honorable mention because I haven't technically watched it, but I've been obsessed over this anime, and I've been watching a lot of clips of this anime. I just can't force myself to sit down and watch the whole thing. I have this weird thing going on with it right now. Anyways, it's called Hypnoseismic Division Rap Battle.
What?
It is an anime about rap battling. And my God, Spen, is it glorious. I watched the whole first episode because I was fascinated. It's just only in sub.
You told me about this one.
That's got to tell you at least how great it is. If I watch it in sub, that means it's got my attention. I haven't dedicated to watch the whole season, but I've been looking up just clips, and they have these super great stylish rap numbers. So rap, it's a big rap world, and everyone's trying to be the best rapper around. And when they're rapping, it's kind of like a legit battle. So the enemies are getting pummeled with energy blasts and shit. It's
that's so cool.
It's so ridiculous. But
there was nothing like that in the first episode.
I love it. I watched this one video where it shows these three guys who are rapping together, and they're all killing it. Their flow's good. They have some good beats and stuff. And then at the end, the bad thug group they're fighting against in this warehouse just explodes into a blue fire. It's just...
Because I watched the first episode of this, and I ended up just skipping through it because I'm like, what? This sucks. What is this?
The anime itself isn't great, but these rap battles, I've been trying to find every possible rap battle in this anime just to watch, because they're super good. The animation on the actual raps is really good. I really, really like it. And I've been hooked on it, and every once in a while, I'm like, all right, I want to listen to another song, so I'll just search it up. So I'm not like binging all the raps at once, but I have this like little bite, and I gotta get me some of it. So
Wow.
it's
All right, I'm gonna have to go back and retry this one.
just hit up YouTube and look up some rap battles, man. They're
Just look up. All right, so this one's on our mention because don't watch the anime. Just watch the rap.
Just watch the rap battles. It's so good.
Oh man.
All right. So I think we should move on. What do we got? We got still to watch, or do we want to go to disappointments?
I think we should do still to watch.
Okay.
And then talk about the ones that disappointed us, and kind of go from there.
All right. So for my list, I've got about 7 different animes that are on my want to watch list that I really need to get to. I'm gonna start off by the Violet Evergarden movie. The Violet Evergarden series came out on Netflix a while ago, and that was really good. And I heard the movie's pretty phenomenal, so I kind of want to watch it. I think I'm just waiting for a dub. Second on my list is Kagashigoto. It's about the single father who is an erotic manga artist, but he's trying to keep it away from his daughter. Like, I really want to watch that anime. I like animes that take a different approach from like, oh, romance and stuff, and I like this father-daughter relationship idea, and I want to see what it comes out of. Third on my list is Kageyasama Love Is War. That's been on my watch list for a very long time since season 1 came out. And weirdly enough, Funimation released season 2 dubbed, but season 1 is not dubbed yet. So I looked into that, and apparently they plan to dub season 1. So when that comes out, I'm going to be binging 2 seasons.
Nice.
So I'm very excited for that. Next would be Goblin Slayer, Goblin's Crown. I really, really enjoyed Goblin Slayer. I like
that's
that
on
anime.
mine too.
I like that anime a lot. So the Goblin's Crown is the movie. I'm very curious what it's about. I also want to see a certain scientific railgun. That has been on my watch list for quite a while. I think it has multiple seasons, so this must be like the new season.
Yeah, we'll talk after about the order and what to look for, because it can be a little confusing.
Okay, it just seems
Because
fascinating.
there's that, and then we'll talk. That could be like a whole other podcast on its own.
But the number one thing on my watch list on Funimation right now is called Decadence. It's about like I really don't know. Like the art style looks great. It's about like these 2 people like climbing things and they're fighting robots and shit. I don't know. It kind of makes me think of Attack on Titan, but
dude, that looks so cool.
It feels different. It just feels different. But it's like a post-apocalyptic world, and they have to like fight machinery instead of like titans and stuff. So I'm very interested in that type of style. It kind of gives me like the steampunk feel, with a little bit of futuristic, and I like the post-apocalyptic stuff. So
wow,
that one has been super hyped for me. I'm just waiting for a dubbed version because I really, really want to watch it.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
And that's your list?
That's my list.
All right. So a couple of those that you've mentioned are now on my list.
Okay, nice.
So the ones that I'm wanting to watch is Listeners, okay. Which has to do with like robots and music, and how these people like connect into these robots to play music. It's supposed to be pretty interesting.
Does that one follow? I think I've watched that. So that follows like this young guy's in a small town. And
yeah, I've only seen the first episode of it so far.
Like, he meets this girl and she can plug into a robot, so he built her a robot, right?
I don't know. I've only seen the first episode.
But that was
it's along the lines of that. I don't know if I think they found a robot.
Oh,
or he had a robot that he'd already built or something like that.
Yeah, he just can't connect to it, but she can. Right?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Okay. All right, whatever. Anyways, moving on.
The next one I've got is A Destructive God Sits Next to Me. It's supposed to be this comedy one with just a bunch of antics about this destructive god. It's supposed to be kind of funny. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
I don't know much about the next one, Warlords of Sigurdrifa.
Okay.
I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's supposed to be interesting. It's like a contemporary fantasy military one. About these different struggling powers, where Odin, the god Odin, sends in these like Valkyries to go and help like deal with or to help protect like Earth or to fix it or something like that from these like terrible threats. So it's got a bunch of like supernatural powers and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be kind of interesting.
Okay.
There's Kageyasama of an insect cage. I don't know much about this one except it's about a gentleman and a I don't believe it's his daughter, but it's a teenage daughter, and how they're going around searching for her mother in this world infected by like these massive insects or carnivorous insects, which is going to be kind of interesting, I think.
Yeah, that does sound pretty cool. Kind of sounds like Love and Monsters.
Sounds like what?
Love and Monsters. It's a movie that came out on Amazon. It's really good.
I haven't seen that. I'll have to check that out too.
I'm pretty sure it's probably different, but kind of sounds like it.
Okay. Girls on Panzer. It's a movie that's coming. I still have to watch this. Girls on Panzer is about. It's like this. We're not getting the synopsises. It's just girls that drive tanks, and it's like a school club. And there's a bunch of different competing schools with like these tank battles, and it's really neat, and it's a lot of fun. It's a bunch of interesting characters, so I'm excited to see the movie for that because the anime ended, but the movies are continuing it, I believe.
Okay.
I've also got Ghost in the Shell. I don't think that really needs much to be said. There's the animated version that came out on Netflix that I want to watch. There's also I'll just quickly run through the names of the rest here. But there's No Guns Life, second season. Art, which we've talked about in a previous podcast.
Yeah.
There's the Goblin Slayer movie I've got. Brand New Animal. I want to watch that. I love the art style for it. That's that one on Netflix that you said you weren't really interested in because it's all a bunch of like animal people.
Yeah.
And then I've got the three that I want to watch the most right now are Akudama Drive, The Millionaire Detective, and Psycho-Pass. I haven't seen the third season yet.
Psycho-Pass. I love the Psycho-Pass anime. Funny enough about Millionaire Detective, that is not on.
You didn't like it.
I did not like it.
Yeah, so that's why it makes me more interested to watch it. So I can just be like, oh, why didn't he like it? And then kind of see what I think about it.
I think it's mostly the fault of the dub is why I didn't like it.
Oh, okay. Well, when I watch the sub, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Well, I feel like when we talk about that, maybe we should talk about our disappointments then.
All right. So the disappointment. Did you have any disappointments?
I have 5 disappointing shows.
Ooh, I only have one.
You only have
with mine.
one?
I only have one show that I watched where I was utterly disappointed with.
I guess I'm just a baby and a princess.
Well, I mean, there's other shows that I didn't like, but this one I was really excited to watch, and then it crushed my hopes.
All right. What later on?
And so this one is Do You Love Your Mom and Her 2-Hit Multi-Target Attacks.
That was the one we discovered through our title game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep, that's funny. I'm sad that disappointed you. Like I was really hoping that'd be good.
I'd seen it before the title game.
Oh,
I just
okay.
couldn't. Yeah, it seemed really interesting and cool. Again, it was another isekai one where it's about the character going into the video game world. But in this one, he got to go with his mom, and it was supposed to be how like the interactions between the two of them and how they progressed through it. But then it ended up just being more about them, her trying to find a suitable girl for her boy. But then there was like it was like a weird, uncomfortable relationship between the boy and his mom, and it just like borderlines. I mean, it crossed the border in a few areas, and it was just, I couldn't do it. I could not get past that stuff, and it took a really interesting and cool idea of this guy wanting to be in this video game because he loves video games, and then his mom's comes with him, but turns out she's really good at it, and he's really bad, and I thought it was going to be hilarious, and it ended up just being just uncomfortable.
That's your only disappointment of 2020 is that one anime, huh? Because you were just so
it was
hyped.
The only one where I was super excited to watch the show.
Okay.
And then all of my hopes and dreams were crushed.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just go down my list then.
Yeah, go for it.
So, as we talked about, The Millionaire Detective is on my disappointments. I was super hyped because, again, I like detective shows. I like the concept of this millionaire and a detective two opposing point of views have to work together. I just like buddy cop stuff. It's fun. I was like, I've never really seen this in a whole anime style. I'd like to kind of see how this goes. But it went the complete opposite route I was expecting. Like, I thought the millionaire is going to be, like, loose and cutthroat. He just wants to solve crimes, but he's not really, trained to do so. He's just rich so he can get out of things. And the detective was the hard ass, but it was kind of the opposite. The millionaire is, like, super strict and everything, and the detective's kind of like this, like, lounge about, looks like he's lazy, and he's unkempt and not taken together and everything. And it could work, but they feel stiff. I don't feel like there was much chemistry between them, and it could just be the dubbed. The dub was just poor. So I'm curious what you think when you watch it in the sub. My next one was ID Invaded. Now this is supposed to be a really good anime. I just have a hard time really getting into it. There's just something about it that makes it challenging for me to enjoy, which is weird because like the concept really worked for me. Like,
and what's this one called again?
It's called ID Invaded. So, like, this guy is, like, he's a super famous detective, and, like, I think one of his family members was killed, and he's just trying to figure it out. But, like, he's in jail trying to help the police. It's like a cyber jail, like, in your brain. And he's trying to help the police find out other criminals.
It sounds really cool.
It's a really cool concept, but for some reason, the actual anime I always get bored watching it. I don't know why. I think what I think I need to do is I've never finished it, so really I didn't really give it a full chance. I only got like 3 or 4 episodes in.
Well, I think that's a fair amount of episodes to get in to decide if you're going to continue a show. That's generally my rule of thumb.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just slow for me. I'll probably give it another chance later, because my mind tends to expand on anime every year. Like, I tend to become more open to anime tropes and styles and such. I don't know. Like, there's an anime I didn't care about years ago that I kind of like now, so it's just different. So maybe I'll give it another shot and hopefully it gets better. But right now, it was pretty disappointing for me this year because I was hyped about the synopsis.
Okay.
Another was Apari Ranman. So that was about like everybody coming to America to race across the country. I'm like, oh, this would be really cool.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
And this one guy's like super genius and stuff. He's like a genius engineer, and he's kind of an outcast. But he's not the outcast that you think. You think he'd be like this loudmouth outcast or has like this interesting personality. But he's so dull. He has no personality. It's the exact opposite. And the worst part is he's like the craziest looking character. Like, everybody looks normal. He looks crazy, yet he's boring, and everyone has a personality. Just, it didn't fit. So I had a hard time getting past that threshold, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
I feel like character design is super important on portraying personality. And he looks so wild and crazy. His personality is like a freaking piece of plywood. He literally does nothing. He's like super hyper focused on what he's doing. And so it makes sense why he's a genius. It just doesn't fit his design. So that's what made it disappointing. Again, maybe I just need to look past it and like just force myself to watch it. Because I only made it 1 episode and I just couldn't do it anymore.
Well, I just put this on my watch list because I forgot about this one.
Yeah.
We were really excited about it when we were talking about the upcoming shows.
Yeah, I was very excited about it. It could be really good, but in my head, it's just bad. Like, I don't know. The characters aren't interesting, especially the main character. And then last, I feel like this should be on your disappointment as well, was Darwin's Game. So Darwin's Game is everything I love in anime. It's like my guilty pleasure. It's, these people get like a cell phone notification and then they're forced into this killing game or other things where they have to fight other people and they get like a special power, and then the main character has the ability to create weapons. And he ends up meeting a girl in a red dress who can throw chains and stuff. Whenever you want to jump in and remember this anime, Spen.
No, I know which one you're talking about. I was never really excited about it to begin with, I don't think.
Okay.
And so it was just kind of more like, all right, we're going to review it. It looks kind of interesting. I'll check it out. So there wasn't anything about it that made me go like, I need to watch this. So that's why it wasn't a major disappointment for me.
Oh, well, for me,
it ended up being an okay show. I thought it was all right.
Like, it's my guilt. I think that's what was so disappointing for me. Like, it's my guilty pleasure. I usually love those types of shows.
And so why didn't you like this one?
I felt like it had a nice concept, and then it went down the whole, we're friends, and we got to help each other out through this whole... I don't know, I thought it would be more of a sick game of, like, psychological friends have to kill each other kind of situation, but it was more of, let's pair up with find friends, and then we're going to fight this bad guy group. I think it went a little more cliche than I expected it to. If that makes sense.
You kind of wanted it to stick more of that darker route.
Yeah.
And like the gritty, like, is he going to make it? He's going to have to get lucky and be smart.
Like, a really good example of an anime I really enjoyed was called King's Game. And this guy had to do a bunch of stuff, and he had to, like, kill his friends. And it was a very, like, tormenting thing for him. So they really focused on that aspect, and everybody was twisted, and, you know, it just got worse and worse and worse. And, like, you want to hold hope for the hero, as this was more of, we're putting this sick game. Now let's go the classic good guy versus bad guy. I just don't think that was, like, the greatest direction for it.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, that was my disappointments.
No, I think those are all fair to have on there for you.
A few of them I may review back, but Darwin's Game is over. I'm not going back to that one.
Yeah. Of all the ones that you talked about, I think Invaded is the one I'm most interested to check out. And I hope it's not a disappointment for me.
I think it was just, I don't know, I don't know what it was that turned me off, man. Like, I really wanted to like it, and everything about it screams my type of anime. I just, for some reason, didn't.
All right, well, do you have any for your what you wanted to be the best?
I don't. That was the list I didn't get to finish.
That's fine. I've just got one here. I really wanted this one to be on my best of list, but I fell off of it pretty quick, Leon. I'm going to go back and give it some more of a try later. But this is Somali and the Forest Spirit.
Okay.
Since it's just one, I'll just read the synopsis here for it. In a world where the ruined human species have been driven almost to extinction by the monsters that now dominate the land, a forest golem is surprised to find a human child sitting alone in the woods, dirty, barefoot, and in chains. The golem takes little Somali under his protection, and the two begin journeying together, traveling through beautiful and dangerous lands where the small girl's humanity must be kept hidden for her own safety. The golem hopes to find Somali's parents alive somewhere, but the chances of this are slim. And besides, as far as Somali is concerned, she has already found herself a beloved father.
Okay.
So yeah, I loved the art style is so beautiful in it, and I was really excited to watch it. I think I went into this expecting. I don't know what I was expecting when I went in to watch the show, but it ended up being it's much slower paced than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
And it felt like it took a long time to really get going anywhere. I've only seen the first half of it, so I can't really say for sure. Mm-hmm. But I really wanted this to be one of the best, just because of the art style, and I thought the concept was really neat. But it just, I don't know.
You know, now that you're talking about it, and I thought, I actually do have something I wanted to be, but it's going to come off of my best of 2020 list, I think. Okay. I wanted it to be the best. And for me, I don't know how controversial this would be, but for me, it was My Hero Academia Season 4.
Oh.
Now, I wanted that season to be the best because I fell in love with My Hero Academia. And, like, when I first started, I started it late. And I kind of just binged the first 2 seasons in the first half of Season 3. And that's when I caught up. And I loved all 3 seasons. I thought each season was great. And I liked Midoriya learning his abilities. Then he had to be smart about how he used his abilities because they would kill him essentially. Because, you know, I've explained, I don't like shonens where there's like more power and I need more power. And that's like the answer to their problems. I liked Midoriya because he used his brain on how to try to solve these problems. And he had all that raw power already. He just had to learn how to use it. And I even liked it when they changed, like in season 3 and stuff, where he had to learn how to kick versus punching because he could no longer punch. He would just like kill himself. Um, so I like that he kind of became his own out of that. But in season 4, the first half of the season was like them trying to do one single mission where they're breaking into the house to fight these thugs. And I felt like they really built up to this whole interaction, and it just wasn't as satisfying as I would have liked it to be. Like,
oh, really?
Every episode was longer than it needed to be. Like, they could have probably took every 2 episodes and made it into one, because every other episode just seemed like a recap of the previous episode. There was a lot of that I saw happening every episode. It just, they kept recapping the previous episode. It was just a lot of retreading territory. Like, we get it. We understand. You gotta fight this guy. And they really did allow some other heroes to shine, which was cool. But in the end, Midoriya just had raw power that he had to let out to fight the one evil guy. And he used all of his power at all times. And he wasn't killing himself because the girl on his back was healing him at the same time. It just seemed like, I don't know, it seemed very Super Saiyan-y. Like, I'm a powerful guy and I can fight and be super fast and everything. And then it went from that exciting stuff to like a big lull of like just a bunch of filler episodes is what it seemed like. Well, there was a couple character growth moments in there. Like, I like the fact that the million guy, like Maximilian or whatever his name was, can't remember the names. Mm-hmm. I like that he lost his powers, but he still kept hoping, like kept trying to push through. I did like the whole relationship of Midoriya trying to get with the girl and trying to make her feel safe. I get that they had the festival and they're fighting for the festival. It just, I felt like all of that could have been compacted a little bit too.
Well, I have a different take on that because I've read all of the manga up to everything that's been released, and they kept it very, very true to the manga, so that none of that was filler. The pacing and everything was how the manga was. It was all okay. It was, that season was almost, it was as true to a manga as you can almost get.
That's unfortunate. It's my least favorite season.
No, I get what you mean. There were parts that definitely felt like they took a long time to get through areas, and I feel like if I hadn't read the manga, then I would have really struggled with that season.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't mind low moments, and I don't mind character building moments either. I just feel like everything was dragged on. It was a very slow season, but granted, I will say, kind of ended on a high note. I really did like the Gentleman Thief, and even though Midoriya outclassed him in fighting and stuff, like he could just kind of warp reality and like turn it into like a rubber band trampoline thing. And that
it was really cool how his character was and his moves and how Midoriya had to try and figure out how to be him.
Yeah, like the worst part about it though is I felt like that was the shortest part too. Like that was probably the most interesting part of the season for me, and it was the shortest. Oh, okay. So overall, it's still I still really enjoy it. I'm really looking forward to the next season. I just hope it doesn't fall into the shonen traps.
See, not to keep going with this show, but I actually really liked the big fight where he had the powers with that girl, because it wasn't just him being super powerful. There was potentially negative things coming on behind it. Yeah. And then even though he was fighting that guy with all his strength, some of the dialogue from the other characters after the fight, you learn that it's like, well, no, he was still controlling himself and trying to be smart about his fight, because he did stuff in ways to minimize damage and to only fight that guy and to not hurt others. And so there were things like that at play that it kind of touched on after, just to be like, hey, there was this.
It's better than most. I'll give it that. It wasn't as bad, and that's why I continued to enjoy it. I just, especially the villain. The villain grew to this big monster thing. I don't like transformations very much, so it's just the transformations is what really kills me, I think, for shonens. But yeah, it was better. You're right about Midoriya. I'll take back about Midoriya about being too powerful, but that was the direction it was heading. Like I just hope it doesn't continue that direction.
You should be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because there are moments in the show where because I like how it does a really good job at having moments where he struggles and has a hard time. But then there's moments where it reminds him, it's like, but don't forget, he's also extremely powerful. But then it always does it in a way where it's like, it takes it, it lets him use it, but he gets hurt or damaged in some sort of way.
Yeah.
It's just that was the only time where there wasn't any major repercussions. But at the same time, it's also because he got lucky that they were able to stop that girl from doing what she was doing.
Yeah, I did.
So I felt that it was okay.
Yeah, overall, it's still a good season. I just think it's gonna come out of my best into the wanted to be the best. Like, I just had high hopes because I loved the first 3 seasons a lot.
Yeah,
but anyways,
it's a really good show.
We can move on to the actual best of 2020 for us.
All right. How many do you got on your list?
I have 4.
Okay, I have 11.
Jesus, man. Why don't you go through a few of them?
Okay, well, what I'm gonna do is there's a couple of these that don't actually need to be on the best of list. I just really liked them.
You think they'd be on the honorable mentions?
No, but I feel like the honorable mentions deserve it better than these guys. So let me just remove a couple of these quickly.
All right.
Oh god, it's hard. Okay, I removed 1. I mean, the way I looked at it is, I believe these are the animes that you need to have watched this the last year.
See, the way I view it is my best list is animes I'm always going to talk about to somebody. Like if somebody's like, "Hey, I need an anime in this type of genre," this is going to be one of my go-to answers to that.
Well, that doesn't help narrow down my list.
Okay.
Well, I'll go through mine a little bit on the quicker side.
Sure.
So I've got the final season of Attack on Titan.
That was on my want to watch list.
Yeah, I started falling off of Attack on Titan, but the latest season, now that it's the final season, I don't know if it's just that the fact that it's the final, it's kind of brought it back into my attention, and I'm really enjoying it. This is actually the only, I watched the first 4 episodes, and then this is the only season of Attack on Titan that made me go, okay, I need to know what's coming up next, and so I started watching or reading the manga.
Okay, so for me, this came on my radar because they announced the final season, knowing that it's
that's what the title of the season is.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, announcing that it's a final season means that they had an end game in mind and a goal, and I like that. I like a wrapped story. So now I'm more interested to continue, even though I had my gripes with the first season.
No, it's completely fair. I think because Attack on Titan has been such a, I mean, the first season and when it first came out, it was such a massive, decisive moment for the anime industry.
Yeah,
with just some of the things that it did, and it I don't think the other seasons were able to keep up or retain the amount of excitement that the first season had. But this final season, with some of the things that they're doing, they're finally wrapping up some story bits. They're answering questions. They did it in a weird way that kind of was uncomfortable at first.
Yeah.
And there's certain things that it doesn't explain to you, but so you're confused. But then as you get into the second or third episode, then you're kind of like, oh, wait, this is actually what's happening. Now it all makes sense. So I think there's a few things they could have done better with that. But that being said, I still think Attack on Titan, the 4th season, is something that you do not want to miss out, or you shouldn't miss out on.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty excited to start it back up. You know, now that I'm aware of what is going to happen, I think I'm more open to the concept of what it is. I think it was just at the time when it came out, I was on that Game of Thrones high, like everyone else. I'm like, oh, this is like Game of Thrones of anime. And I was expecting it to do things like that, but it didn't. But now that I'm aware of it, I think I need to give it another watch, and I'll probably love the whole show.
Okay. Well, my list is a little longer, so why don't I just quickly throw in another one, and then we'll... hopefully a couple of these are on your list, but I've got Demon Slayer.
Nope, never watched it.
Demon Slayer, when it first came out, there was so much hype towards it that I avoided it. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to enjoy this right now because everybody's talking about it so much that I just... There's too much hype for it for me. I needed to wait. And now what I've got here on the best of list is the 20 Is their movie. Because I think Demon Slayer, was it last year or was it the year before?
I think it was last year, but the movie, yeah, I've already read that this is already the highest grossing movie of all time.
Mm-hmm. It's really good.
Is it?
So it takes a lot of the stuff that they did the show, and it's just I don't even want to say anything about it because I'm afraid that I'll ruin the movie.
Well,
by saying just too much.
I probably may not watch. I don't know. I might watch it eventually, honestly, but like it's a shonen, so it's never really been on my radar.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be a hit or a miss for you. It's hard to really say. It's got some things in it that I think you would really like. But there's other elements about shonen that I think you would dislike.
Yeah.
The fights are always really cool. Where, for example, like I think parts of the show that you'll really like about it is, I think there's certain fights that happen and things that happen where the character gets injured, and these injuries stay with him and affect him, so that in other fights that he could have been able to have no problem fighting, they're now more difficult and challenging for him because he's dealing with like broken ribs and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So they've got different stuff that carries on like that. That's really neat. But it's I don't know. I wouldn't. If you were to ask me if you were gonna like Demon Slayer, I'd say maybe.
Great.
That's the best answer I can give.
Okay. All right. Cool.
All right. What do you got for your list?
So, in my number 4 spot, I have Tower of God. I really liked Tower of God. I really enjoyed the idea of it. I like the games and the way it continues, and it was one of the few animes that interested me so much that I read a shit ton of the manga that was released on like the webtoons and stuff. And obviously
awesome.
We did an abridged version of it. So it's I typically would probably only do abridged versions of animes that I really love because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really good.
I think it's a great concept. I'm very excited for season 2 and to see what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't suck.
Yeah, hopefully. Although it does have a flaw, but even the written manga has this flaw where it introduces things and then never addresses them again.
Yeah.
Like the sword. The sword is a big one. Who knows? Maybe it comes in seasons later.
Yeah, like another 4 seasons later.
Yeah, oh man, that's so
and then the rabbit Hedon's apparently was like an important character. He like seemed so important, and that was just like
he seems so important, and then he's just not prevalent in any of the manga after season 1. It's just super.
I thought he was gonna come back, but because I don't know.
We read so much of that. Like we were both reading it. I think I got to like the chapter 300 or whatever. Or page 300, I don't know. I got close to the 300 range. It's just like he's clearly not coming back. They just forgot about him.
Well, because I think we're gonna finish. We're gonna do the whole first season, but I don't think we're going to ever do the second season.
No,
I don't think so.
All right. But anyways, tell me about a couple more.
Unless the second season ends up being fantastic. But.
Yeah, it could be. Who knows? But either way, first season was pretty good. It kind of came out of nowhere too. Like it just popped up out of nowhere. Like it wasn't on my radar, and I just saw it once, and then saw a lot of people were talking about it. I'm like, all right, cool, let's give it a shot.
Well, I've got the Tower of God, the God of High School.
Okay.
The God of High School. I don't know how to, but it's the fighting in the game is really, or in the show is really cool. The art style's really interesting, and there's so many different fighting styles and ways that they incorporate the stuff in here as these students are battling over this competition to gain the title of the God of High School.
Okay.
And it starts out with these certain people coming in to fight, and they're tough. But then as you get farther in, you start learning about more of these things that are happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
With these different powerful entities and these pacts that the people make with these powerful spirits from the past, so that their different fighting styles are like elevated to these next levels. And it's really, really cool. And it's even for the fight scenes alone. Normally I'd be like fighting scenes are not good enough to make something a best of, but even for the fighting alone, the choreography for the fights is enough to be like this. This has to be a watched show.
That good, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe I will have to put it on my radar.
Another one I've got in here is the season 3 of Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon?
Okay, I started watching the first season of that, and I don't know, I just had a hard time getting into it.
Yeah, that's fair. It definitely some really weird with a few different things. I just really like the main character Belle, and just the struggles that he goes through and how he tries to overcome the odds of different things, and how because how far did you get into the?
Like a few episodes.
Okay. Because there's certain things that they do with the character Belle and alluding to who he is, which we still don't really entirely know. And how he gains skill and stuff in ways much quicker than most of the others in the dungeon. So it's got it progresses things at a rate that's really exciting and interesting. And I don't know, I love the characters. I love the concept of it. I've been hooked on it from the first episode, and I've never been able to stop watching it.
You know, I'm kind of surprised you like that anime. It almost borders, I don't know, just like the woman character that's with him and stuff.
Yep.
She drives me fucking bonkers.
It was very frustrating and annoying, but I loved everything else about it so much that I looked past it, and it's nowhere near as bad in the other seasons. Either that, or I've grown numb to it, and I don't notice it as much anymore.
Well, either way, I couldn't get past it because of that character. I'm just like, nope, I don't care enough. I'm done.
But I think part of it's also, I love fantasy. I love animes to do with fighting with like swords and magic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I really get drawn to the isekai shows or different ones like this.
Okay.
Because I just want there to be like people to play Dungeons and Dragons and then turn that into animes.
That's fair.
That's all I want.
That's
in
fair.
life.
I would love that too. That'd be great.
So.
All right.
What's the other one you've got?
Third on my top 4 is My Teen Romantic Comedy Snafu Climax.
Ugh.
Shut up! It's great. It's way better than whatever garbage you would like. I'm just kidding. No, it's a slice of life romance, but it focuses more on the slice of life than the romance. The romance is actually surprisingly, even though it's in the title, it's pretty minimal. It's about this guy who is a loser and lazy. And he gets forced to join a club, and he ends up joining the service club. And however, he's really intelligent. He's really good at solving problems. And so they always have interesting problems, and he comes up with a dynamic way to solve it. But then the girl who's leading the club is also really smart, and they kind of oppose each other and fight and stuff. And then the third member is a girl who likes him, but also wants to be her best friend. And so it's like a weird love triangle thing. And again, even though it says romance and stuff, that's not really ever the focus too much. The last season even isn't that big of a focus. It just has moments, and the moments feel kind of real. I like it because it's not just a cliche romance. I like it because it's a little more complicated, and it goes through all these like very thought out. Everyone's overthinking the situation, so it's not real life at all, but it's like an idolized real life where everybody seems to be considerate of everyone else, but at the same time, everything's pretty thought-provoking. It really does make you think throughout the entire show.
Okay.
And I'm pretty satisfied in how it ended. Like, I'm just glad it got a finish. But what's really interesting is it's one of those animes that the first season had a pretty minimal budget and very simple art style. And then it got a huge budget and changed studios mid show. So like the second and third season did a completely different art style and everything. And I'm glad they kept the voice actors. I would say the beginning of the season probably struggled because it was during COVID, and then everybody had to submit their lines through their personal microphones, and one of the main characters had a shitty mic, and it just didn't work as well, but they ended up fixing it halfway through the season. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. You were telling me about that before.
Yeah, so this is a show I've actually been following, surprisingly, for a while. And I really enjoyed the climax of it. I enjoyed the ending, and I think you would like it, Spen, if you gave it a shot.
I tried the first season. Like, I watched the first episode, and I was just like, well, whatever, I don't care.
Well, give it at least 2 more, and if you still don't like it, then that's fine.
Fine. I'll give it 2 more tries.
But go ahead with like 3 more of your million best anime of 2020.
I only have 3 more.
Oh, really? I thought you said you had 11.
Well, I cut one of them off because you talked about. Here, give me a sec. I'm just adding this to my watch list.
Okay.
My team-minute comedy. Blah, blah, blah. All right. Because how many do you have left?
I have 2.
Okay. I'm gonna do. Okay. I'm gonna do 1, and then the other 2 I want to do together because I couldn't. My anime life would not be right without them.
Okay.
If you're okay with that.
Sure.
All right. Fire Force.
Okay.
Second season came out. I think this is a must-watch anime. The farther we get into the series, the more we learn about the stuff going on in the background and how so many different things tie together, and we learn more about the lore of the world. And I think it's really exciting. I love the characters.
Yeah.
They have a little bit of. There's a couple different things that I'm not particularly fond of. It's kind of goes along like the ecchi line. How far into did you get?
I'm only like 4 or 5 episodes into season 1.
Did you meet the cat girl yet? She's not an actual cat.
No.
Okay. Well, when you meet her, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Oh, you're making me not want to watch it now.
No, it is really good.
Okay.
They've done some new character development for her in the 3rd season that has made her one of my favorite characters.
Okay.
Whereas before she was all right. She was pretty good. There's no characters in the game that I hate or in the show that I hate, and that's what makes it really exciting for me. And I love the struggles they go through, how they deal with things, how the characters progress and they improve over time. And I think I want to say it's very well written, but I don't know for sure. It's just, I really like how everything is laid out and it's playing together.
Okay.
I think the 2nd season is way better than the 1st.
Oh, really?
I think the 2nd season is a must. I wouldn't have put the first I don't know if I'd put the 1st season on my best watch list of the year that it came out, but 2nd season for sure is on the best of watch for this year.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. All right. Well, number 2 is an amazing anime that I recently discovered. It's on Netflix. It's called Great Pretender.
Oh, that's also my watch list. I forgot about that one.
It's so good, Spen. It is so good. So
what if it's not actually, but it's just great at pretending it's good?
It's that too. It's a phenomenal anime, man. So it's about like this character. His name is Edamura. He's a con man in Japan. He claims to be Japan's greatest con man, right? And then he gets out-conned by a Frenchman, and that French guy drags him on to these big jobs that he just doesn't want to be a part of. And he's a part. It has like a very Ocean's 11 vibe in an anime style.
I haven't seen that.
It's very stylistic. The characters are great. I love the feeling of it all. Like it's got the wacky Japanese bits, but only with like Japanese characters. It's weird. It's like the English dub version still has like Japanese and French voices and stuff. So like in the very beginning, he's talking in Japanese. I'm like, wait, it really confused me. I'm like, wait, is this dubbed? Like it started dubbed, but now it's Japanese, and it doesn't give you subtitles. That's the worst part. Like it just lets you not know the conversation. And then somebody will kind of translate it. I don't know.
That's really cool.
It's a very international anime, and I really love it. I love the direction going. The best part is it gave you 2 seasons in 2020. Like it had season 1 that came out. I'm like, oh great. I kind of watched it a little slow. I watched like an episode a night. And then after I watched it, about a month later, it released season 2. I'm like, holy shit, another season! And I just binged that entire season. It's really good, man. I can't talk about it enough. It, like I said, it's a very stylish anime. It has a lot of like bright colored backgrounds, and it has like a very sketchy art style. So it's not like very clean, but I think it works for the type of anime that it is. And it doesn't have a lot of the cliche tropes. It feels fresh and new, and I think it's phenomenal. I think it's great. It easily would have been my best number 1 anime of the year if it wasn't for my actual number 1.
All right, that's one of the next shows I'm watching.
You have to watch it. You won't regret it. It's a phenomenal anime. Like, and watching this, like the entire time, I'm like, man, I really want to. Like, I constantly think like, can I abridge this? I really want to abridge it, but then part of me doesn't want to because it also is pretty funny on its own.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It's interesting. I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to do it justice yet. I'd have to at least watch another season before I decide if I wanted to do that. But you got to check it out, Spen. This anime could easily carry a whole podcast itself.
All right. We're gonna watch it and we're gonna do a podcast on it.
Great. I would love that. But
done. Anyways, I'm excited for this now.
You should be, and I hope you love it as much as I do. It's really good. But what's your number 1 anime, Spen?
Well, this one's tough because I have 2 shows here.
Okay.
And they are not only, I'd say, best of 2020, but they are also if I was to create a list of my top 10 animes of all time, these 2 would be on it.
Both of them? And it came out in 2020?
Both of them.
You know what's interesting is before this, you're like, I can't think of a year with great anime. And yet 2020 has produced 2 of your top 10 favorite anime of all time.
It's still not the best. See, I still wouldn't consider. I consider 2020 a good year for anime, but it's definitely not like a top year for anime.
That's fine.
But yeah, it did come out with the 2 tops. So I'm gonna start the first one. The next one I'm gonna talk about I think is better than this one. But this one is Ascendance of a Bookworm.
Okay.
I've been hooked on this from day one. It's another one of the ones where it's someone that's reincarnates in another world. But this Ascendance of a Bookworm is about this girl in her previous life. All she cares about is reading books. That's all she did from the time she woke up to the time she went to sleep. It was just books. That's all she cares about. It's her only passion. Something happens and she dies and she reincarnates in this new world. But it's in this medieval setting where she is in the family of commoners. And books are something that are only acquired by rich and the noble. And even then, you don't see them very, very much. So this is a show about her who's trying to go and find a way to be able to read books in this new world. And the only way she can figure out how to do that is by creating her own books. So it's the journey of her going through and all of these processes and difficulties to create books in this new world. But what really sets it as interesting is she has this her character that she's reincarnated into. She reincarnates at a I think she's like 4 or 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so she's got all of her intelligence from before, but she is in this very frail body of a young girl in this family where she has this condition that it's slowly kind of like killing her. So she has to find ways to cope with that and to kind of work with that while also trying to achieve this this journey of creating her own books so that she can finally read again, which is the only passion that she has.
Interesting.
And there's a bunch of different elements that come into play that just make it exciting and heartwarming. And there's so much conflict between even like very small tasks just because of how frail her body is. So it adds complexity to so many different things that makes it just fun and a blast to watch. Yeah, the first episode I watched, I was like, hey, this is really good. And the second episode, I was like, nope, that's it. This is my life now.
All right. I probably have to give it a chance now. We'll see.
But more than this one, I would almost consider this to be my number one anime of all time. And it's Haikyuu.
Isn't that the
I've
volleyball
It's the
anime?
volleyball. Yeah, it's a volleyball sports anime, and I've I I don't think I don't think I've been as drawn into an anime as much as I have with Haikyuu.
You've talked about this anime
Um,
a few times.
yeah, I can never get enough of it. I have to actually, when I watch this show, I have to watch it on the couch. I can't watch it on my computer because I'm so animated while watching it. Certain things are happening and I'm just like grimacing or I'm just like jumping up and I'm like like if sometimes it feels like I'm watching, like I'm reacting to this anime as if I'm watching a sports show, and it's like every episode of this show is like the Grey Cup for hockey or something like that, and it's
All right.
I just I can't get enough of it. And they've done such a fantastic job where there are so many characters in this show, so many characters that it's unreasonable. There's like 12 or so different characters on the main team for them, and then as you go through the different seasons, it introduces more teams, and each of those teams have all of their own characters, and so they start introducing those guys into the show. And there's so many characters that it's insane, but they do such a great job at finding this perfect balance of introducing all the characters and when to give you information about the characters, and then you start to grow and love all of the characters on your team as well as these other teams that you're competing against. And it's one of I would consider it to be one of the best written shows of all time because of that.
All right. You've officially convinced me. I think I'm going to watch Haikyuu next. Does it have a dub?
Yes, and the dub is really good.
All right. I'm going to watch it, Spen. And then we'll
So
go.
I'm actually currently, I watched everything on the sub version. My sister started watching this on the dub, and she was like, "Spencer, you gotta check it out. It's actually pretty sweet." So now I'm rewatching it in the dub, and I love it just as much as the sub.
All right. I'm going to watch it, and we'll also do a freaking podcast about Haikyuu.
All right. So my homework is Great Pretender.
Yes.
Although you've got a bit more with Haikyuu.
I've got a bit more. I see that it's got a season 4.
Yeah.
Oh, it has the season 5 coming out. So yeah, I've got a few bit more. But yeah, Great Pretender is phenomenal. You'll love it.
Yeah, the only other thing I can really add about Haikyuu is this is a show where you never know what's going to happen, because a lot of sports animes are about a team that's going through and trying to win and be the best, and then they just go through all this.
Yeah.
But there's so many ups and downs with Haikyuu. It's really amazing. You honestly never know if they're going to win or lose, if they're going to pull through, if things are going to shift and change.
Okay.
And it's yeah.
All right.
It's my number one anime of all time.
Of all time.
Of all time.
Damn. I'm really gonna have to watch it. All right.
So sorry for hyping it up.
No, you're good. I'm excited to watch it now. So my number one anime of 2020 came out the very beginning of 2020.
Oh.
It is called Weathering with You. It is a movie, and it's by the director Makoto Shinkai, the director of Your Name. And Your Name is my favorite anime movie of all time. And naturally, I had to watch this to see how the follow-up was going to be. And it's really, really good. It's just as beautiful as Your Name was. He hired the same band to make the score for this movie again, and the music on it is just as phenomenal as Your Name. It's the soundtrack for Your Name and the soundtrack for Weathering with You are on my daily soundtrack listen. So when I listen to my music, when I do anything, I usually hear something from Your Name or Weathering with You. And
that's awesome.
Like, it's such a good soundtrack. The animation, like I said, it's one of the best animation styles I've ever seen. And the story's phenomenal. So it's about this boy, and he runs away from home to Tokyo. So he lives, I assume he lives in a small town. They don't really address it. But he runs away to Tokyo, and he's basically an orphan. He's trying to figure out where to set in life, and he ends up falling into this like private, like this spiritual investigators. So like they check anomalies that are happening in town and see if they're ghosts and stuff or whatever. But anyways, they're like private investigators for interesting phenomenons. And he hears this rumor about a girl who can control the weather. She can make it rain. And they've had this huge drought, and so there's no water. Or sorry, no, it's been opposite. I think it's been raining forever. It's been raining for a long time, and she can bring the sunshine. So he befriends this girl, and turns out this girl is also an orphan. And they create this job where they go and just release the sunshine for people on certain days, and she takes money for it. But it has some interesting side effects. And it's a fantasy romance movie, but it's just everything about it. It's
sounds
so
really
heartwarming.
Good.
Huh?
Sounds really good.
It's amazing. It's heartwarming. It's touching. It's got a great voice cast. It's got great music, the animation style. You will not regret watching this movie at all. I don't think is quite as good as Your Name. Your Name is just a masterpiece on its own, but it's right behind it. It's a very close second, and it's the number one anime for me in 2020, and I can't wait for awesome. Shinkai's next movie.
Wow. I got to say, 2019, I felt really struggled with coming up with new ideas.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like repeated stuff, and then 2020 is just...
I feel like I kind of agree. I think a lot of even numbers tend to have pretty good animes. Because I think we talked right before the podcast, we're like, what year was just a great year for anime? And like 2016 came to mind.
I don't remember what came out in 2016, but I think it was somewhere around there that, yeah, I think that was what really...
Your Name came out in 2016.
Oh, okay.
But another anime I think came out in 2016 was Erased.
Erased.
Yeah, 2016.
Oh, yeah! Oh, that was so good!
One of the best animes ever. That was my favorite anime.
I forgot about that one.
But anyways, yeah, so, I mean, that's our 2020 stuff, man. I'm pretty excited to check out a few of your lists.
Yeah, you've given me a bunch to... Oh, man. I feel like there needs to be some sort of like list and comparison of how many shows people actually watch in a season compared to how many they mark as want to watch, and compare that throughout the years as it goes.
Oh man, it's just an ever-growing list. Like, I'm still watching animes from like 2015, 2014 that I haven't seen yet and stuff like that.
Well, it's just like, because we're using Anime Planet right now. It's a fantastic site for just tracking anime, finding new shows to watch and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the list of shows for 2020 that came out, there's 19 pages of it, and there's probably like 30 to 40 different shows per page.
Yeah, there's just so much anime.
Yeah. Wow. But I mean, we've also run a little longer than we usually do, so we're pretty much out of time for the podcast here. But yeah, it was a fantastic season. Your question of the week, which we haven't done in a little while, is what is your number one anime that came out in 2020 that you would recommend for us to check out?
Yeah.
It can be one we've already seen. That's totally fine. But what would your recommendation be of the number one anime that we need to check out that came out last year?
Yeah. Tell us about it, and then if there's something we haven't seen yet, we'll probably end up watching it, and maybe we'll do a podcast on it. Maybe not, though. We don't like to make commitments.
All right, have yourselves a good one.
Bye.